thought it was time to do a proper update on this 3D printed Enigma machine. I finished wiring up 3 of the rotors. That's these 3 here. And I was able to actually test the machine, but I still have a few problems I need to sort out. One of those I'll get to in a minute. That's what's printing on there at the moment. But there's a couple of things I need to sort out still. The first is, this is the shaft that the rotors sit on. And at one point I actually made this a little bit shorter. And I've discovered that has now caused me a problem, which is I've made it too short. So the length of this is critical, so it fits in between the reflector and the entry wheel. And I actually made it a little bit too short at this end. So that kind of has to sit down inside there and not lift up. And because I've made it too short, it can pop out of the reflector. Out of the entry wheel, sorry, which is down here. So you can see that can come out. So I actually need to make that, the end on the shaft, a little bit longer. I'll make up a new shaft. You may be able to see there's a slight gap there. That gap shouldn't really be there. So that's the first problem. What that was causing is when I was pressing the keys and the pawls were coming up, it was actually lifting the whole rotor stack out of the machine, which isn't very good. I have just noticed this seems a little bit loose, which isn't good. I imagine the spring has slipped in the bottom there. The machine, how it's set up, is critical in terms of friction. So funnily enough, I had this same sort of problem on my on my Riley 9. So that has control columns that run down the center of the steering column. They're sort of concentric tubes, and each one has a lever at the end that operates the control at the far end of the steering column. So you need to set those up so there's enough friction that you can move the levers and they stay in position. But when you move the lever next to it, or you move the steering wheel, they don't move. So it's kind of a balance of getting the right amount of friction in the machine for it to work. The Enigma is kind of the same. So these are there to provide tension on the thumb wheels so that when you rotate a rotor around, these clip into the little scallops in the edge of the wheel to give you positive location off the rotors and to provide a little bit of friction so everything just doesn't rotate freely. So I need to fix that spring, which should be easy enough. The other problem I had was with the reflector. The reflector slides on here. This pin is what keeps it upright. There's the lever on here which pushes this into the rotor stack, and that's what compresses everything to make all the contacts. I found this was moving too far that way, and it was putting too much tension on everything. So you need to kind of get a balance there as well, where you want just enough tension to make contact on everything, but not so much that you're increasing the friction in the machine and the parts won't move correctly. So that's what I'm currently printing. This is the lever that's come out of the machine, and you can see it's got these sort of peaks on it. And the idea is, as you rotate that, it rides up these little ramps on the back of the reflector. You can sort of see them there, and that's what pushes them in. And at the same time, it moves this. So it moves those from, you have them out of the way so you can load the rotors, and then as you move the little lever, these drop down, and that's what holds the rotors in place as it's pushing this inwards. So I'm redesigning this. I'm reprinting it now just so that this has a little bit less lift on it. What that will do is lower the amount of tension on this as it pushes in. I may also have to change this a little bit so that it actually moves in this way a little bit further so that I can actually drop the rotor stack in without it hitting the pins. So that's another problem. These are all just fine tweaks. The other thing I need to do, which I completely forgot, is I need to sand this face so that this is as smooth as possible. Because if you imagine all the rotors stacked, you've got all these contacts pushing against all the pins on the other side. And that's an awful lot of friction. So you want to be able to reduce that as much as possible. So making the surface as smooth as possible helps there. And then the biggest problem I've actually got is these pins, these Pogo pins, are far too fragile. So unfortunately those only come in particular sizes, and if we can see it. So this, if it'll even focus on it, I've just dropped it. This is one of the Pogo pins I'm using. And as you can see, they're rather small and rather delicate. And because of the way I have made the machine at the moment, when the circuit board goes into the rotor, I have far too much length of pin. So in the circuit board, these are held about there. And that free length is too much, and it's too bendy. And what I actually found is I did get the machine to work a couple of times where I did actually press a letter and got a number to light up because it was making contact all the way through. But I ended up breaking some of the pins. They just snapped. So what I need to do is redesign the rotor so that the circuit board is further along the pin, so there's less sideways force on them. These aren't really designed to take sideways force, so that may always be a problem. I did figure the machine is always going to be delicate. It's not built to last. It's kind of a one-off. I just want to see it working once. And then if that works, I can go back and redesign it a different way. But the problem is those pins only come in particular sizes. If you get a fatter pin, so it's stronger, it's going to be much longer and you don't have the depth there. So what I'm going to do is redesign this so that it is thinner here. And possibly try to redesign it so that when the ratchet part goes on the back there, it kind of eliminates all of that depth altogether. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. I'm going to fix this, make a new shaft, and at least see if the machine works at all. If the pins then keep breaking, I will redesign that rotor and see how it goes. Other than that, the rest of it is actually done. I still need to actually cable lace all the wiring. That's what this is when you sort of tie string. It's a particular pattern of string wrapping to hold all the wires nice and even. The actual compensator mechanism, that works reasonably well. I think this may be another place I might need to do a little bit of redesigning. And also this, getting the spring tension correct on these, may be a little bit of messing around as well. But that's pretty much where it's at the moment. It's getting very close. As I say, it's a machine. It was really just a way for me to learn how to do CAD and learn about 3D printing. And also, I've always had an interest in Enigma and the Turing-Welchman bomb and things like that. So I've made various Enigma machines, electronic ones, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to persevere with this. The idea is not to build a machine that's robust and solid and easily constructible or sellable. I get an awful lot of people asking me to send them all my files, and the answer to that is no. It's thousands and thousands of hours of work. One, it's not finished for a start. And if I do actually get it working, I may look at reprinting some of the parts in metal, and just seeing if I can actually make a machine that's a lot more reliable. So, to be honest, if I get a lot of people asking me to send them parts or files or things like that, but they really don't even understand the basics of what I'm doing here or how this needs to work, or the fact that you will need to do some machining to make this work. You can't do everything in plastic. Yeah, it's just anyone who's done any sort of projects like that know that you're just opening yourself up to a whole lot of trouble if you try to actually make something, a product that other people are going to use. I mean, this is why so many Kickstarters and things like that fail. And I'm not even trying to productionize this. So it's just one of my oddities, one of my little projects. We'll see how it goes.